And then a lot of people that don't follow the recruiting game but love college football, just to give you a bit of a feel as to where you could project when you're looking at the top 5 to 10 players in the nation. And that was close to the top 5 players in the nation. I was going with players that were looking at multiple SEC schools, so it pretty much covered it. But just to give you a feel for, because we're going to look back in 3 to 4 years and say, okay, these 3 guys turned out to be all-time great players at their positions. These 3 or 4 guys were complete busts. You got some impact players, you got some role players, you got all sorts of outcomes here. The 2020, you just let me know here, Blaine, what strikes you in regards to, this is the top 10 players that signed with SEC schools in the 2020 class. So these guys only have 1 year under their belt. But of course, we got number 1, Bryce Young, who we're going to see a whole lot of at Alabama and expect him to blow it up this season. Will Anderson's already gotten off to a great start at Alabama, had 7 sacks, 10.5 tackles for loss, already one of the top rushers in the SEC off the weak side defensive end spot, was the number 1 player in Alabama. You've got Gervin Dexter, who got his feet wet, got some playing time there at Florida, defensive tackle. Khalil Ringo out of Georgia. You know a lot about him, although he didn't step on the field much. Jalen Carter, right out of the gate, became a productive player. 3 tackles for loss for Georgia. Eric Gilbert, 35 catches at LSU, number 1 rated tight end in the country out of high school. Drew Sanders, of course, at Alabama, less opportunity necessarily even as a 5-star to get on the field right away. Played a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. Jalon Jones turned out to be a really good player, already making an impact at safety at Texas A&M, had an interception, 30 tackles in 9 games. Got Jordan Birch, South Carolina, usually not in the running for this kind of player, but of course he stepped on the field and got his career started off in good shape. And then maybe one of the best of the bunch certainly is Eli Ricks, who was a freshman All-American who picked off 4 passes at LSU. So that was just the top 10 guys that signed at SEC schools in that 2020 class.
Well, my first thing that comes to mind when I hear that list is there was only one on that list that wasn't going to Alabama, Georgia, or LSU. I think that was the Jalon Jones from Texas A&M. So you see where the power is concentrated. It's because of how you recruit. Recruiting is the lifeblood of college football. Alabama and Georgia have been just punching each other in the nose the last couple of years, going back and forth, battling over the top spot in college football for recruiting rankings. That looks to be the case again this year. In the Rivals rankings right now, Georgia's sitting at number 3, but they're scheduled to have a huge month in the month of June and going forward. There's going to be key transfers coming in that I'm sure we'll be able to talk about here soon. Maybe even people that are on your list there. And then we'll also discuss, Alabama's sitting way down here outside the top 15 right now. Well, guess what? They only have 6 commits in the class of 2022, and that's because of COVID and not being able to have in-person evaluations. Nick Saban is just sitting back because guess what? Nick Saban doesn't have to recruit anymore. He invites. And if he says, son, do you want to come play for Alabama? Most of them say absolutely. So that, and people also need to understand, well, so-and-so was offered, but they didn't end up going to Alabama. They didn't go. Not all offers are created equal, folks. Not all offers are committable. They make you understand, like that young man that I was talking about, Keon Saab's younger brother that got offered by the University of Georgia going into his 8th grade year. He's a 2026 guy. That is not a committable offer right now. He can't say, yes, I'm going to commit to the University of Georgia. He has to go out and continue to show his improvement, and they see the potential in him. That's almost like a placeholder saying, hey, we acknowledge what you're doing, but it's just fascinating. There's so many levels to recruiting here, but that was my impression that I saw Alabama, Georgia, and LSU on all those names, except for one Texas A&M guy, I think. So that's kind of what stood out to me on your list. But all of them have been productive players. All of them are going to be productive going forward, and some of them are even going to be in Heisman contention probably with a guy like Bryce Young.